Okay, now I want to go do a video over some of the higher end axes that I have, a few of them. Some of the higher end axes that I have that I got at a lower price, and then I got some American axes that are higher end too. The very high end axes that I have are Swedish axes, and some of the higher end American axes are very well built axes too. Actually, I've found that if you buy an older axe that was made, oh, say 30 years ago or older, you're going to get a good axe. Whether it's American, Swedish, it doesn't really matter what it is. They had way better steel back then, but we'll get into that in a bit. So stay with me. Okay, so I wanted to just talk about axes when it comes to bushcraft, as far as quality and money wise, you know, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have a whole lot of money, and there's two ways of thinking of it. You can get a really cheap one and it'll only last you for a while. You can get, actually there's three ways of thinking about it. Get that cheap one that will only last you for a little while. You can get that old antique one that will last somebody else their lifetime, and it'll probably last you your lifetime also. And then there's the guys that are going for some of the ones that they're antiques, but they're still kind of high-end axes because of their name brands and stuff, which when it comes to the older American axes, really to me the name brand does not matter. A lot of times if I find an older American axe, I'll look more at the profile of the axe depending on what I want to use it for than I will at the brand. And when I say an older axe, I'm thinking like 30 years old or older, when they actually make good steel. Most of these axes that I have, they're softer steel, and then they forge a harder bit into the end of them. So you got to watch about that too, because if they're sharpened down too far, they'll be into the milder steel and they won't hold the edge as well. So if you do buy an older American axe, you want to make sure you get one that is got a good full-size bit on it, or head I should say. But anyways, so let's see. Let's go over some of the American axes first, and then we'll do some higher end American axes. And then we'll go to the higher end, which I have a few of, not too many of, Swedish axes. These are not all of my axes, by the way. These are just examples of axes that you can get at a decent price if you kind of watch. Now, the higher end axes are going to cost more money, but at the same time, they're better axes. They'll stay a little bit sharper, probably not too much more sharper than good American axes. And they, you know, the profiles are a little different on the Swedish axes. That's one of the reasons why I like my Swedish axes. But anyways, we've all both gone over these. These are my American axes, and these are the two carving axes that I use the most. One's a traditional broad axe, one's a retouched broad axe that somebody has taken and sharpened the opposite edge of the blade a little bit. Turns out, I found out in my last video, I told you that this axe actually ended up being a better carver. The two broad axes, that's all I use them for, is carving. I don't take them out in the bush with me unless I know I'm going to go out there intentionally going to carve something. And that's why I have those. Now I have an old American hatchet, and I use this for a little bit of everything. This one actually I use in the house mostly. And like I said before, these old American hatchets, if you get a good one that's got a full-size head on it and it's not been sharpened down too much, these were good axes. I mean, and they're everywhere. You could pick up axe heads for all these little hatchets and the bigger axes for, you know, anywhere between $1 to $10, depending on what you're looking for. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that are looking for that name brand one that. And it doesn't matter to me, not on these old American ones. If you get the older American ones, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a good axe. that being said, here's another older American one. This is a full-sized axe, boy's axe, I should say. And there you go. It's another one. It's $4. It's a $4 axe, and it's bulletproof. I mean, I could do anything with this axe that I could do with one of my higher-end Swedish axes. Might not do it quite as well or quite as fast, but it'll get the job done. For $4, those of you who are just getting into this bushcraft stuff, you can find these. You can find them everywhere. Flea markets, garage sales, it won't be too hard to find them. And it'll get you into the bushcraft thing, and it's only a $4 investment. And that's the same as with these hatchets. These hatchets can be found everywhere. The small ones like this, and that's another thing. It'll get you into the bushcraft at a very low investment. And these old American ones will last forever. Now, I don't have any cheap ones, but the other thing I'm going to talk about is the very, very cheap axe. You can get away with a very cheap axe, and it'll get you into the bushcraft, and you'll probably pay more at, say, True Value or one of these hardware stores or budget stores or whatever, and it'll cost you probably more than if you bought one of these antique American axes. But you'll be getting a brand new cheap axe. So that's up to you. The American axes, the old ones, they're going to last you. That brand new cheap Chinese one probably isn't going to last you as long. So you got to think about that too. So, you know, for a lower price, you're getting a better axe. It's older, but it's better. That's something to think about. Now, the other thing about American axes is I do have a few name brand American axes, only because I collect a little bit. And you will pay more money for collectible name brand American axes. And this one here is a Norland. It's an old Norland hatchet. I don't think the handle's original. In fact, I think the handle might actually be maple. But I paid $50 for this axe. It's bulletproof too. It's old American. Steel's great quality. The profile I like about it. It's not as good as a Swedish axe because it's a little thick in here when it comes to the carving and stuff. But I collect them, and I wanted a Norland hatchet, so I bought it. $50 is probably the average price for one. Nowadays, I think they're actually selling a little higher. I bought this quite a few years ago and used it just exactly the way I bought it, and then over this last winter I actually took it all apart, redid the handle, and put it all back together. Put some linseed oil on it. I linseed oil all my handles. It's good stuff. And that's that. Now, also another Norland. I think this is another Norland axe. This is a boy's axe. I bought this at a flea market too. Now, again, I like the Norland axes. That's why I bought it. And they're bulletproof, and they're American made, and they're pretty traditional. Hudson Bay style, you know, and this was $65. It basically came to me exactly the way it is. The only thing I did was retouch the blade just a little bit, and it's razor sharp now. The Norland axes, I like them. They're okay axes. They're good steel. The profiles for the smaller hatchet is a little too thick for me. Now this one I've done a little bit of cutting with, not a whole lot. Like I said, the Norland ones are kind of collectors for me. I use them, but I only use them when I'm out playing around. I don't take them out on backpacking trips or anything like that, because they, like I said, they're kind of a collector for me. And let's see. So that's it for the American axes for me.